Cardinal George Pell will walk free from Victoria's Barwon prison today after his conviction for sexually abusing two young choir boys during the 1990s was overturned by Australia's High Court of Appeal this morning. The reason for quashing the conviction was that reasonable doubt was not considered by the jury during his trial. The High Court determined that witness statements pertaining to Pell's movements during the time of the accusations should have proved reasonable doubt, and Pell should not have been convicted. Victims of child sexual abuse advocates, and in fact many members of the public, have already expressed outrage over the decision, saying it demeans the credibility of child sexual abuse victims and leaves them wondering why they should testify in the first place. One of the alleged victims has passed away after a heroin overdose, his family saying an addiction that stemmed from his childhood abuse, while the family of the second victim say they are too outraged to comment this soon. I'd love to hear your opinions below.
This is a live shot from the news helicopter above Barwon Prison, where Pell is waiting to be released. We're going to keep it up on your screens, and when he walks, we will take you there live. Eliza Rugg is standing by for us outside the jail. Eliza, good morning to you. How soon could we see the Cardinal walk free?
Davina, we could see George Pell walk free from Barwon Prison in a matter of minutes. We have just been told by police that they will give us a heads up that they're closing the road outside Barwon Prison. That will allow George Pell to be safely taken away from the prison. That's not happening at the moment, so we expect we still have a bit of time up our sleeve. But just recapping what has happened this morning, George Pell has been acquitted of all charges. The High Court has overturned the jury's guilty verdicts, and George Pell will now be a free man. Essentially, the High Court has found that the jury should have had reasonable doubt as to whether George Pell was guilty, even though the complainant, one of those two choir boys who says he was abused by Pell, even though that man was believable, he was credible and he was reliable, that the evidence of the other witnesses in this case, it simply did not match up. That 5 to 6 minute time frame that prosecutors were relying on to prove that George Pell was guilty, that simply at the end of the day it didn't stack up, and now George Pell's guilty convictions, they've all been overturned. He's been acquitted and he will walk free from jail. We're expecting sometime over the next hour, but it could be within a matter of minutes.
Eliza, you've heard that he wants to speak when he leaves, but because of coronavirus restrictions that may not be possible. Instead, he has already released a statement this morning. Take us through that.
Absolutely. So police have told us that George Pell, upon being released, actually wanted to come over to us. We're here basically in a paddock opposite Barwon Prison, and he wanted to come over and make a statement to the cameras, but was told because of the threat of coronavirus that would not be possible. Remember, the 78-year-old has been in prison since COVID-19 started. So perhaps he has been told about the real risks of coming into contact with people. Instead, his legal team has released a statement on his behalf, and it reads in part, "I have consistently maintained my innocence while suffering from a serious injustice. This has been remedied today with the High Court's unanimous decision. I look forward to reading the judgment and reasons for the decision in detail." He also says that I hold no ill will to my accuser. I do not want my acquittal to add to the hurt and bitterness so many feel. There is certainly hurt and bitterness enough. However, my trial was not a referendum on the Catholic Church, nor a referendum on how church authorities in Australia dealt with the crime of pedophilia in the church. The point was whether I had committed these awful crimes, and I did not. Cardinal Pell has always maintained his innocence. Today he has been vindicated, and Davina, we know that perhaps within a matter of minutes we will see Cardinal George Pell walk free from Barwon Prison.
We'll cross back to you when that happens. Eliza, thank you.
I'll bring you more on the testimony of the victims later today, as well as the systematic child sexual abuse alleged against the infamous Corpus Christi Seminary in Melbourne.